Morning, David.
Morning, Bill. How are you doing?
Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a long haul. So
Is it? Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
it's getting better.
Sort of.
At least the 24/7 pain level has gone down.
Good.
Now it's kind of limited to when I move the joint, in any way, I get jabs of pain, but the constant background pain, which was 4 or 5, it was significant, is reduced, dramatically. So we'll see. They tell me another 2 or 3 weeks, we should know whether it has taken, completely, the gel injections.
Yeah.
And if they have, then I could be on a regimen every 6 months for as long as they work. Or the other option is knee replacement. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's,
Don't have to.
the arthritis is bad in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear what I'm dealing with. So
Yep. Well, I'm very familiar with all of that. But well, I'm glad the overall pain has gone down. I hope the gel works.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so it's just we'll see day by day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Adam.
morning, Adam.
How are you guys?
Okay.
I'm good.
Good.
And you?
All right.
Just all right, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Always something exciting going on at work. You know how it is.
Uh-huh.
In the world, I suppose.
Well,
Yeah.
we should not go there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Bill.
Yeah. Yes.
The other Bill.
Oh, the other Bill. Yeah, there.
Morning.
Morning, Bill.
Morning.
Morning, Bill.
Where's Joanne? Unless she's in a demonstration somewhere.
Maybe.
How are you, Mr. Bynum?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
You're doing well too.
I am.
Good,
I
good.
could do with less ice, but
Oh, well, we don't have ice here. It's gonna be 64 degrees today.
oh, don't tell me that.
Sounds terrible. How are you gonna ski?
I
Actually,
don't know. I'm gonna have to wear a light jacket to go out for lunch.
we're actually supposed to have 43 today, so maybe we'll melt some of this.
Good, good.
Hi, Joanne.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
All right, I'll rename myself to Joanne.
Oh, you're not volunteer?
It's Allentown Peace Trust. I am that sometimes, but not right now.
Oh, gosh, it said you were.
It did, it did. This week's been more War Resisters League, to say the least.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Joanne, we've decided we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that's good. I need a break. Yeah.
I imagine you
What
do.
I've been doing for the last hour anyway, so.
Good. Okay. So, questions?
No, actually, I mean, I did not meet the practice of 20 minutes a day this week. Adam, I don't know if you managed that, but I did.
Joanne, come on.
What are you doing? But I did, it was a challenge that made me focus more, maybe than I would have otherwise. And I found from the notes and the video and the work we've done, that I felt like I made real progress on 3. And I think that just putting the pieces together, which I think was what, we really did last week, putting them together and also kind of understanding some of the things that maybe I hadn't understood before, or maybe you hadn't said before, but and really feeling it then when I put it together correctly.
Good. Good.
Well, I attended the last class by myself virtually later, and it was a great class.
Well,
I was sorry to have missed it in person, but yeah, but I am left with some number 3 questions. So,
Well, I might mention that we're certainly going to spend all of today and probably some of next week on 3. So hopefully we'll answer some of your questions, but do tell me if you have any you can express at the moment.
well, I guess going if you're going like from 6 to 3, exactly how the weight is shifting, and as you're rotating with the 4 points, and I've been working on that. kind of how having the extra lean with the 4 points going up into 3, you know, that I've had so many little variations as I'm thinking about that on how that can happen. And I don't know if there's a path that I'm missing or accidentally hit on one time, but not other times or whatever. So weight shifts and rotation and you know, what you're doing with the sort of squat and all that at the same time.
We're pretty much going to be addressing all of that today. So what I would say about the weight shift is that you are working towards eventually being 100% on the foot on the side that you're rotating towards. So it's you, as we are with many other things, working towards a complete weight shift, but without becoming unbalanced and without losing the positive contact of the other foot, the ball of the other foot. But we're gonna,
David, when you say the ball of the other foot, I thought the heel had to stay planted on the back foot.
it does, but the weight has moved towards the toes, towards
Oh,
the bubbling
okay.
well.
Okay,
And so the positive energetic, I'll add the word here, the
Okay.
positive energetic contact of the foot is at the bubbling well,
okay,
because the energy is rising through that leg.
okay.
Good.
What I found really helpful, and I missed last week also, was the part about keeping the hands at the shoulders nest at all times through the movement. And that was kind of a revelation. I think I was close, but actually focusing on that helped pull everything together somehow.
Yeah, that's a transitional practice. We'll talk some more about that today.
Okay,
But yes, part of what that does is help you to establish that connection of the elbow to the spine and to maintain it. So that is an important element. Anything, Adam, how are you doing?
Good. 3's coming along. I found this week pretty helpful to connect with the organs. I don't know if just working on that elbow placement and, like Bill was saying, keeping the hands where they should be for the moment, help keep that connection. I'm actually finding it easier in 3 to feel the arms kind of extending down into the organs than it is for them to feel connected to the spine and other postures and movements. So
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but I assume I have a spine back there somewhere.
There you do.
Definitely it is. That's
So
good. Okay, well. The transitions are important, as we know, in all Qigong and Tai Chi movements. Actually, there are many schools of Qigong and Tai Chi that focus primarily on learning the big movements and kind of fudge it on the transitions. But the transition between one movement to the next is very important, because it is what is responsible for keeping the continuity of Qi movement. And it is what is responsible for keeping the continuity of what's happening inside your body, including your organs and your spine and everything else that is moving inside you. It is what is responsible for making sure that the continuity of your nervous system is maintained. So the transitions are very important. But many people have a tendency to just want to get on to the movement, and they sort of fudge the transition. So in movement 3, we're going to focus on alignments and connecting the nervous system. We're also going to be doing eventually, not today, but next week, Taoist side breathing using the liver and the spleen. So why is this transition from 2 to 3 important? There is a tendency when anybody raises their arms up high to have a sort of natural stop, but we want to have the chi and everything is moving inside your body not stop, simply continue to flow. We want the pressure that was developing in movement 2 as your arms were coming up to continue the pulling from your hands to your internal organs. And that the strength of the connection between your hands and your internal organs doesn't drop. So the bungee cord movement maintains a steady, smooth action, in effect, causing its benefits to increase. Now, the value of this is multiple. First of all, when your hands get up to the top of your movement, your arms are directly connecting to your neck, and through that, all the way down to your chest and your heart. So keeping the neck vertebra open and keeping the pressure on the heart very steady is a major thing that is happening in this transition. Otherwise, you can go into movement 3, but you won't have the pressure maintained. And when you haven't maintained it from the beginning, it's a lot harder to try and institute it again in the middle of the movement somewhere. Now, a lot of people ask, why are you doing all these very tiny little details? Isn't it enough if I just get my arms pretty close to right? Well, in regular exercise, if you just kind of move your arms in the general way, it may be enough. Because the only thing you're really trying to do is to move blood and get air pumping in your body. So you don't need that much precision. You just need the general way the movement has to be done. But in Qigong, a lot of what is not mentioned are all the smaller channels in your body you're trying to flood, you're trying to make work. To use an example that may help you, there are 700 plus acupuncture points, but most acupuncturists only use 20 or 30, 50 at most. So what are the other 650? The fact of the matter is that they all have very specific functions, but unless you need to use it, you can get most of what needs to be done by not using the whole 700. There are a lot of connections that actually do require using some of these other 650 acupuncture points. So when you're talking about these details that you have in Qigong, it is the difference between doing Qigong and getting the benefit of 30 to 50 acupuncture points, or you're going for the precision and benefit of hundreds. And that's the reason why the precision of the movements, which are utterly invisible to a layman who doesn't know how it works, are very important. Just as it is utterly invisible to a layman why in God's name an acupuncturist is sticking needles in all those various points. What they don't see is what's behind it all, and why doing those points in the specific way it's done has specific reasons for the benefit it will specifically produce. So this is where transitions are important. In a sense, because they set your system up for activating more of these points. Whereas if you don't do these details and you go straight into something, you'll leave out, not work a lot of the channels which could be worked. The same, worked at the same time with no extra effort on your part, if you include the precise details. So what's going to happen at the very end of movement 2 is that when you get up to the top, you need to keep in mind that your hands are going to rotate further. They're going to rotate until the center of the palms face each other. And that's going to be an essential issue. So let me just demonstrate here for a moment. And if I give you the right camera,
Yeah.
probably be very happy. So first I'll do a movement 2. And then the transition really begins here. And at this point, you want to make sure you have that connection to your organs. And the arms are coming up. And at the very top of the movement, your arms are really kind of an ellipse, more or less parallel to each other, and the palms are more or less facing each other. The Laogong points connecting. And then as you go to 3, there is an extension. Now, when you come up to here, to this point, the arms are bent. And as you go out here, they extend or stretch. So the important piece of this is that ideally in movement 2, you've made that connection, that vertical connection with the organs. And as you go into movement 3, you keep the connection, which now is going to go into the coronal movement, the circular movement, rather than the vertical movement. Sorry. One of the things that I didn't mention as I was doing that too is to make sure as you make that movement up to the top and then go into 3, that you don't let the arms collapse in any way. I know we've talked about that before, but I wanted to mention it. So what I want you to do is to stand up and we're going to, actually, I want you just to do a one of movement 2 and then go through the transition. And so we're going to do that several times. So first, just thinking about not collapsing and keeping the rotating of the arms going. Start with the arms out to the side and do one full movement 2, and then go into that transition and pause at the top when you get there. Okay, so actually, I feel that I would like all of you to bring your elbows in a little bit. They don't have to be absolutely parallel, but they shouldn't have more out than, than in here. And basically your two Lao Gong points are facing each other. So try it again. Okay. Good. Bill Bynum, I would bring your elbows in even a little bit more. So relax. Now I want you to do it again. And this time I want you to think about really being aware of what is your 70% point in terms of how high you're raising your arms. And remember that actually the arms stay, the wrists stay crossed until you get to the top, and then they spread. Okay, is everybody comfortable with your 70% here?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, again, start with one of movement 2, and then when you get up to the top, make that first turn to 3 and pause.
At 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, relax. So one of the things that I saw happening was the arms stopping at the top of the movement. Remember, I just talked about that a moment ago. So the movement must not stop. It continues. So try it again. Good, that was better. So a little bit later on, we'll work on rotation, but right now, don't worry as too much about that. Just keep the arms rotating as you go. So, and remember that actually they are rotating outward from the time you cross the wrists at the bottom all the way until they complete at 3 o'clock in this transition.
Hmm.
So do it 3 times. Try to keep the movement going. Don't let the elbows collapse. Be aware of your 70%. There's nothing to think about.
Mhm.
3 times through the whole of 3?
Nope.
Or ju-
No, at the moment, just going to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Really look for that connection to your internal organs. Okay. So any questions there at the moment? All right.
I think I do have one.
Yep.
So I understand our elbows are closer together at 12 o'clock, but they're
Yep.
clearly separating out then as we go to the sides.
They are
Because
moving
you're twisting,
outward,
yeah.
yes, because your
So the
arms are
elbows.
rotating
Yeah.
outward.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Any others? Okay, so start from doing one of number 2 and go do your complete circle of 3, 6, 9, 12, 3 in each direction.
Okay,
Free distraction, okay?
And Bill, do it seated if you need to. Don't kill your knee.
Thank you.
when you complete that, you can sit down for a minute. So one of the things about the circular action is that it's going to make your internal organs move and rotate. The inward turning will make your organs rotate towards the inside, and the outward turning will make your organs rotate towards the outside. So you should feel this going into your internal organs. And just, so that you understand what that meant, because I can imagine. So this is an outward turning. This is an inward turning, and an outward turning, and an inward turning. Okay? Just to be clear. So another element is, what about your eyes?
Mm.
From the negative point of view, you want to make sure that your eyes don't bug out. And there is a tendency when you get to 3 or 9 o'clock and you're expanding out for your eyes to bug out. One of the things that you want your eyes to be able to do is to have the sense of dropping through your torso, through your internal organs to your lower dantian. So this is a kind of weird thing to try to explain, but normally all our eyes do is look outward. Your eyes can also look inside your body, and you can look outside and see what is out there, because you don't need to expend any effort to see what's outside of you. If your eyes are open, that's going to come in. But you do need to expend effort to make what's in your eyes come into your internal organs. And you have to have, when you're coming up out of your internal organs, the sense of your eyes monitoring your internal organs. That also takes a bit of concentration until you can do it. Then once you can do it, it's easy. It's nothing. It's a transition point. So the eyes are important. So actually, I want you to do what you just did and really focus on being aware of what your eyes are doing and trying to find that internal vision with them.
Mm.
and then sit down. Now, that's probably not long enough practice to really make that connection, but I'm interested in your response. Did you have any sense of that?
Difficult, David.
Yep.
Trying to incorporate that while staying with everything else.
I don't want you to get bored, Bill.
No chance.
No chance. I found that by the third time in the second round, I was beginning to.
Oh,
So I
good.
actually did a fourth time there just to kind of test that. So,
Uh-huh.
I think that really kind of, I think that the pulling and the turning of the organs was, I began to make that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been exhaling at 3 and 9, and it was interesting looking out at 3 and 9 while inhaling at 3 and 9 while looking out. Something was going on there that I hadn't felt before. I don't know how to describe it.
So that's interesting. You know, this is kind of a side note. One of the things I don't know that I've said in this class before is that, well, often we teach a specific breathing pattern to begin with. Every movement of God's can be done with the breath going in either direction, either sequence.
Mm-hmm. You
And
have said that, yeah.
there are we do different things sometimes with changing the breathing pattern. And it's interesting in 3, one of the things that we're not going to get to today, but we'll be working on next week, is this side breathing, being aware of breathing into the sides. But particularly when we go to 3 o'clock, breathing into the liver, and when we go to 9 o'clock, breathing into the spleen. And when you are working on breathing into the organs, you actually inhale as you go to 3 and 9, whereas basically we think of exhaling at those points. It can be done both ways, but you're working with different emphasis, different intentions at that point. So that's just kind of a side note, that don't be too concerned if you discover that you go into another way of breathing and it seems to be doing something interesting. It probably is. So one of the things that we need, or a couple of things that we need to keep happening. Change my camera here. Is that we just think about where we've gotten to at this point, that we have 2 things that are going on. One is that the arms are rotating, and notice that my elbows go out when I rotate out, and my elbows rotate in when I rotate the arms inward. And at the same time, they are not collapsing. I'm taking the other parts of the body movement out of this at the moment and just focusing on the arms. The elbows stay out and connected. They rotate along with the arms. Just as the arms bend and extend, but those bends and extends, remember, are in that 70% range, not the 100% in either direction. And those movements are really intended to move the energy. So as the arms rotate out, you're projecting energy out, and as they rotate in, you're drawing energy in. And the intention is to facilitate the energy going into the internal organs. It's very similar, actually, to when you inhale and exhale, the blood in your body goes in and goes out of various tissues at the same time. So we have two things. Let me just come back here. One, we have this turning. So the arms are continuously rotating. And so that's, again, we talked a moment ago about not stopping. The rotation has to be continuous. So as we're going through these movements, it's not that we go out and pause and then come in and pause, but it is a continuous movement that does not stop. You want that rotation to be smooth, and you don't want to let the shoulders rise or drop out of the movement, especially when you come in. You don't let them collapse. So we have the second thing is your hands are going to be coming back and 70% and going out 70%. So that was that bending in and out that I talked about a moment ago. But they have to stay open all the time. They never collapse. They open and close slightly, but not that much. So don't allow the hands to collapse at either end of the movement. So there are two things, rotation and bend and stretch. And so that's what I want you to work on next, is to be aware of that continual bending and stretching or extending and bend and extend as you go through that movement. Your armpits can close and open slightly, but let your shoulder blades just follow your armpits. Don't try to make a big deal of moving your shoulder blades right at this point. So what I want you to do is to do one of movement 2, come up through the transition and pause. And then I'm going to make a comment and we'll go on to 3, and I'll do another, say a little bit more about arriving at that point.
I have a quick question before we go into this, David. And that's that with our elbows, when our hands are at noon, our elbows in, are we also trying to do that at 6?
So at 6, we are definitely arms parallel. And the other thing one thing I should just say that I'm not sure I've been really clear about, and that is that when you go to 6, you're actually going into a qua squat.
Mhm.
So when you going down, you're not staying up, you're not just folding and staying vertical, you're actually going into a squat, so that while the hands are still opposite the shoulders nest, they actually come to almost the level of the lower dantian, ideally,
Uh-huh.
if that's within your 70% range of movement.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So remind us again now what we're going into. You want us to do 2 to to the beginning of 3, but then how far are we going?
You're gonna do one of number 2 and go to the top in the transition and pause.
Okay.
And we're gonna pause at 3, 6, 9, and 12
Yeah.
also. So you want that connection for your spine through your shoulders to your hands to remain like a steady rubber band. And you want the pressure from your hands into your internal organs to be just the same. And you want to focus, if you want to focus on the spine more, you could, but if you want to focus on the internal organs more, you can do that. But in this movement, the central point is the internal organs, not the spine. Now go to 3. And as you start going to 3 o'clock, your hands turn out. You're rotating outward, your elbows go out, and your palms are facing outward, projecting chi out of your palms. And then as you come in and go down to 6, basically the center of your palms are facing each other because the arms are rotating inward. The palms are at the level of the lower dantian. The elbows coming in until your forearms are parallel. And then you want to go to 9 o'clock, turning with your qua. You rotate outwards, letting your hands extend out from your elbow, and your elbow will pull on your shoulder, which will pull on your neck and should pull on your spine. And then as you go to 12 o'clock, your hands are coming in as you rotate in, and they land at your head or as high as you can go. And now flow onward, completing 6 repetitions in each direction. And just try to be aware of all of those points. So that was pretty good. A couple of things I would say. The actually, interesting enough, for both bills, being aware that parallel means the elbows and the hands are the same distance apart, not the elbows are into the sideline and the hands are into the center. So parallel is parallel. It's not on an angle. And part of the problem is being aware of what's happening with the elbows, because they can come, when they are forward and connecting to the spine, they can come in quite a ways without affecting the opening and closing of the armpits. So finding that ability to get the elbows in can be helpful, I think, in that. The other thing I was going to say, actually, everyone was doing pretty well about the bending and extending. Bill Nagel, be a little careful about not going out too far.
Okay,
Really think about where is 70%.
70%, yeah, yeah.
And Joanne, I felt like you didn't go out to 70%.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So maybe thinking about extending a little bit more at 3 and 9.
I think part of that might be my protecting my knees, particularly at 3. But yeah, I'll pay attention to that more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So questions that you have. I've given you a lot of things here today.
I would say what you just commented on as far as the elbows and me, that goes back all the way to movement 1 and 2, where we had talked before about my not pulling my elbows as far into my body, going up and down.
Yep.
And I think I've probably overreacted and I've let them fly out a little bit more. So that's a work in progress. I understand that. Yeah.
That is, this is a major point, to find that position of the elbows where they are connected to the spine and not collapsing, and you can maintain it constantly.
Yeah.
So that it never gets lost. And that's true in all of the Qigong we do, in all of the Tai Chi. It's true in Xingyi or Bagua. Take your pick. So it's a really important piece.
So yeah. I don't know if this is a good way to put this, but as you sort of lose altitude from 12 to 3 or to 6, depending on which direction you're going, is that more of a fold? And then as you stretch, are you unfolding a little bit? Or it's, how we're doing that is.
Are you you're talking about the arms or the body?
I'm talking about the body, how we are getting, that much. 3 and 6, I'm taking to be at half the height of this sort of ellipse or circle.
Yep.
That's at 12 at the top and 6 below. And I was saying 3 and 6, I meant 3 and 9.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The body movement is something we'll address next week, because it's really related to opening and closing the qua. And it's more than we've got time to get into today.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But just so that, because that's a very valid question, and just to say that in terms of I'm trying to think how to give you something without getting too much into this.
It's
So it-
okay to wait. I'm patient.
I know you are. Yeah, that 12 is the problem about all of this, I will say, because it's clear that we have an opening, a sense of opening at this point. We're extending out. The elbows are rotating out. Coming to 6 is not such a big problem because everything is coming in. And then 9 is a little more difficult than 3, but it's there. But the problem is that 12 is also closed at the qua. It is somewhat bent at the qua, and yet it is the top of the circle. And so there is a rising movement, but it's not an opening of the qua at that point. We'll get into this more next week, but I just thought I'd at least say a little bit about it. Other questions?
I do, David. I have another question about 12
Sure.
o'clock. I think that I had been keeping my hands lower, right? Keeping my hands more to the shoulders nest rather than into my head. Right? And so I guess I'm questioning now, like, where the 70% to what? What's 100% at that point? I understand what 100% is at 3 and 9, but what's 100%? And I
So-
definitely need to raise my hands from what I'm seeing.
So the focus on having the hands at the shoulders nest was intended as an interim practice
Okay, all right.
to counteract the tendency to let the arms collapse.
Yep, okay.
But in actuality, how high they're going, they could go to here.
Okay, yeah, because
Okay,
there's 2
what-
that can, yes. uh-huh.
What is your 70%?
Okay,
Here's 100.
there's 100, so, yep,
So maybe 70 is here. But maybe actually for you, your 70 is here.
okay,
I can't
Yeah.
tell you that.
right,
It is not required that the arms have to be clear up here. That's not necessary. And eventually, one of the determining factors about how high your arms rise in that transition has to do with how quickly and how high your energy rises up the body and is ready to transition out to 3. And that eventually can happen very fast and doesn't necessarily require the arms to raise very high at all.
okay,
So that's a stage quite a ways down the road yet. So at this point, we're still working more with just being aware of where is my 70%? What's a reasonable place for me to go to?
Mhm.
yep, thank you, that's helpful.
Yep. Other questions? at this moment? Okay, well, have fun. Try to find that 20 minutes. See you next week. Well, this is the first class of a new session, by the way.
Yes, send you money. Yeah.
Okay, take care. Have a good week.
All right. Very
Yeah,
good.
thank you, David.
See you, David, bye.
Bye.
Okay.
So a lot of what we did today is what we're doing in the forum. And I would presume probably a little easier for you to deal with than it might be for the other two. But in thinking about the form and the arms, arm positions and arm rotation and bending and stretching, any questions in there?
You know, I don't think there, I mean, again, I didn't practice the form, but I have to say after last week and seeing Adam do the first paragraph, I realized I missed it. You know, like I really did miss it. But I focused so much this week on 3 that I felt like that was about all my knees could take. But that didn't stop me from really thinking more about it, like you were just saying, and kind of feeling, doing God's kind of the understanding more of that, you know, and drawing from what we've learned from the form into this. I think that's very helpful, particularly at 3 and 9, and not just kind of going out and in, and, you know, like rounding our corners and all of those things.
Yes.
Like, you know, you've gotten that so into our heads that, but it is a loop too, right? It's not just going in any one direction. It's like God's the form. So it's there, but physically, and I mean, that's why I thought it was interesting. You pointed out I'm not really going 70%. And I think that is true, probably, especially at 3 o'clock, where I feel the most stretch on the knee, you know, stretch on the knee, which it feels like they're getting better, but I also realize that too heavy of a practice can set that back. So
Yeah, so you're right, don't do that.
yeah, maybe I should do some more of it sitting down. I've kind of moved away from that, but I can go back to that a little bit in order to maybe do a little of the form.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll see this week about that. Yeah.
You know, the other thing is to see if you can do the form in your head.
Well, I do it in my head. I think, and I think I have been doing it in my head more this week than I had in a long time. And I do
good.
think that's, because as I said, I missed it when when Adam went through it last week. And so, yes. Yeah, and then occasionally, I don't know, maybe it's Adam's boiling water thing, you know, thinking, oh, like I'm standing for a few minutes, like, oh, okay. You know, so kind of, grabbing a few moments to do so it's not coming right after having already done 15 minutes of other practice.
Yeah. It's tough for us when we don't have the time to prepare ourselves for practice. I've been not in this class particularly, but in a couple of others, I've been really emphasizing how important it is to do standing practice, standing Qigong, and not necessarily moving and standing, but simply standing still, and which is actually considered to be the fastest way to really develop the ability to move the qi in the body. And
sure.
So I've been doing a long standing practice with couple other classes. And just to re-emphasize that that's something that's a good thing to do. And you certainly can do it seated.
Mhm.
There are advantages to doing it standing, but it can be done seated perfectly well. And so that's kind of a good thing to remember, that even if you don't do a long standing practice, even to do a minute or two before you go into movement, going into the 8 gates and doing the movement it's really a good idea.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference in what happens energetically.
Mhm.
And I realize that very often in certainly the Tai Chi classes, I tend not to spend a lot of time doing standing, but go right into moving the 8 gates. And there are great advantages to doing it without constantly moving. Pulsing is a wonderful practice to prepare us for doing Tai Chi, but it's not necessarily the most effective Qigong practice.
Hmm.
Always. So just a thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that even just now in practice, when each time you got us to stand up, I could not just begin. And I felt like, particularly as we think about making that connection, our head, our perineum to our feet, if I don't stand and do that, if I don't have that time before I begin, the connection's not there.
Yeah, good.
Mhm.
It's just not. I just can't go into it. And I'm very aware that this makes no sense to do it if the connection's not there.
Yep.
And so I do think it was helpful at the very beginning when you said, do longer practices, but then as you get it more, you can shorten it. Now, obviously, the kind of 15 seconds right before I went into, number 3 is not enough, but I was able to at least grab it back.
Yeah,
And I couldn't have just gone right into put your arms out and go into the, second half of 2 without that. So I think that's that for me, I see that as a good sign that I am making those connections. And
Yep.
I'm aware when I'm not making them.
good.
Hmm.
So I don't know, maybe Adam and I will move.
Inspire me again. I'll do it in my
Sure.
head. I'll do what I can in my seat. Yeah, I don't think I should stand right now. Yeah.
And Adam, and Joanne, as we do this today, think about focusing on constant rotation.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. You'd think I'd get faster with the computer, but not necessarily. So begin Tai Chi.
You want me to keep going, David?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna pause you, Adam.
Sure.
Good. So what did you notice?
I find that the constant rotation is easier to focus on if you keep your awareness on the connection to the spine and the organs.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it seems to be easier to, I guess, control the rotation and divvy it up throughout the whole movement, especially on like longer transitions.
Yep.
So you don't run out of rotation or make it to a muscular thing where you know it's sort of like a clock ticking.
Yes. Good.
The longer transitions are difficult though. Like Repulse Monkey, it's difficult to keep that rotation there. I found it was easy to find a point where you became like static. And you were just holding the arms and, you know, doing the footwork to get ready for the next movement.
Yeah. That I think that's just a matter of focusing on that movement and being aware of
Mhm.
keeping that rotation going and not over rotating into the completion of the posture.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that you still have the rotation to go through the transition.
Mhm.
One thing I noticed is you kind of dropped the condensing out of the middle of each of the wave hands movements.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that was an effort to keep the movement rotating or.
Yeah, it probably just one of those things, you know, you're focused on one thing and you start letting go of all the other stuff without
Yeah.
realizing it.
Yeah. That is kind of the difficult part of that transition from one side to the other, though, is keeping that condensing in, but not letting it be a stuck movement anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, that does kind of need to be there.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's looking good. Looking good. Joanne, any thoughts?
I think that I can move towards getting back into paragraph 1, but as I was remembering all of the other postures, I was like, ooh, yeah, that would be a little rough. But I did feel in sitting, I did do what I could on the arm movements. And I think, yes, in bending and stretching, I was just much more aware of my elbows and their role in that, thanks to the work that we've been doing in GODS.
Good. Good. Well, practice when you can.
Aim for 20 minutes a day, but
Right.
don't beat yourself up if you fall short. But
That's right. Particularly when you're doing important work at the moment.
Do your best, but don't overdo it. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and balance with everything else we need to do in life. Yeah. Things better at the hospital, Adam, as the numbers get low.
The COVID numbers are better for sure. You know,
numbers are better. Now everything else spills back in.
Yeah, well, that's all. You know, now we can focus on all those other problems that were still going on. But
that's right.
It's okay. There's always going to be an issue.
There's always help.
Shortness of staff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
But
well,
good.
Hang in there.
All right.
You too, guys.
Yeah, you too. Very good. Good class. We'll send you money.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
That helps.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.